Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2024 AGM. I bring greetings from beautiful downtown Toronto. Unfortunately, I could not be there tonight in person, but was able to clear my schedule this evening. I'm going to start. I'm hosted spotlighting. Wow. We're going to start, as Paul said, with a presentation of the Kingston Historical Society Award. I'm going to read the inscription that is on the plaque that's going to be presented tonight, and I thank Peter Gower for substituting for me as my vice president. In commemoration of the 130th anniversary of the founding of the Kingston Historical Society in 1893, this award is presented in recognition of outstanding contributions to the preservation and interpretation of local history, to the volunteers of the Great Lakes Museum. In 1975, the Marine Museum of the Great Lakes was founded, and for 40 years, it slowly expanded its activities, its content, and its recognition both in and far beyond Kingston. The Alexander Henry was its flagship. If we had been pleased with the work its volunteers did during the first 40 years, we have to be overwhelmed with gratitude for what they have accomplished in the past 4 years, putting the building quite literally into ship-shape condition, ready to receive visitors with new interpretive displays and a new ship, the SS Keewatin. And more enthusiasm than could ever have been expected on that bleak day when they saw what had happened to their building. Knuckles may be grazed and muscles weary, but we can be proud of what they have done for Kingston, its maritime history, and for themselves. The Kingston Historical Society wishes to show its appreciation for the work of the volunteers of the Great Lakes Museum by honoring them with its 2023 award for their contribution to Kingston's history. Signed and sealed at Kingston, Ontario, this 31st of December of 2023, under my signature, Paul J. Charbonneau, President. And I will ask Peter to please award to the volunteer.
Well, thank you very much, President Paul. David Shurtloff, I believe you're going to receive it on behalf of I don't know how many volunteers. On your way over, I will point out that the society is just a couple of years younger than the dry dock, but a lot older than the boat that you've got there now. And we were I've been asked to move into the middle. So if we can go over here. Do that, Henry.
No, I can't get so in front.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all volunteers. And it's my pleasure now to ask Doug Cowie, who is the manager and curator of the museum, to come and talk briefly about what's going on, what is going to be going on in your wonderful building. Doug, welcome.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of our volunteers at the Great Lakes Museum, and to tell you some of the stories and fill you in on some of the background of what's going on with the museum these days. But I'd like to start back a little earlier in the history of the museum. I don't have to tell this crowd how important volunteers are to all museums and historical institutions to make them operate, and how much we rely on them. And thus, with the what used to be the Marine Museum of the Great Lakes at Kingston, before we changed our name recently, started in 1975 in an abandoned building, and all the artifacts and collections and everything were donated by a local group of divers to begin with, and then it expanded. And those volunteers took a derelict building that was basically stove in the windows. There's snow coming in. Vermin were living in there, and it was a shambles. And they turned that museum into a fine first-class institution that Kingston was very proud to have. So 2016 comes along and the government sells the site. We get evicted and we're in purgatory for 3 years. And in the meantime, the building once again is left abandoned and derelict, and it gets broken into. Vandals get inside and strip all the copper, the electrical wiring, the pipes. They put holes in the drywall. They turn the place into an absolute mess. And we think that's about the end of it. Fortunately, through a great benefactor, we were able the original developer sold the property. We were able to purchase it back. And when we all walked into the building after those 3 years, our hearts sunk because the building was just completely trashed. However, it wasn't more than a day or two after it became known that we took over the building and we purchased it, that the person who you just saw get introduced as the recipient of this award called us up and said, "Doug, when can we get in the building?" There wasn't any pleasantries like, how's the weather, how the last 3 years have been or anything like that. He just said, "When can we get in the building? We got to get in the building and start to get to work." His friend Peter called me up, I think the next day, and said, "When can we get in the building?" And all those volunteers that have been with us since I joined in 2008, I think Dave had been with us since 2013. All the hard work that they had been put in for the last 10 years before we were evicted, all those volunteers started to call us up again and say, "We're ready to get to work." And as dejected as we all felt when we walked in there was no complaining. Quite the contrary. They said, "Well, what can we do?" Well, we didn't have a lot of money at the time. We didn't have any power. We didn't have any water. We didn't have any restrooms. We didn't have any heat. And these people came in, a small group of them at first, but then they grew and scraped the floor, the concrete floor, as if all the paint on the concrete had blistered over the years with the constant temperature changes. So they got on their hands and knees and they scraped all this loose paint off as a start. And then we got into buying materials and painting and everything, still without any power or a heat or anything like that. And it was like 10, 15 below zero. So it was a remarkable story of the enthusiasm that this group of people embraced to bring a museum back basically from shambles again, from being a derelict building. So they need to be commended for that effort. And then as on, more and more volunteers got involved. We put on gallons and gallons of paint. I think I estimated that the paint we covered, we could have covered a football field from end zone to end zone. And all the drywall was repaired. To give you an idea of the damage, I think we claimed up to close to $700,000 in just contract repairs, HVAC systems, electric, plumbing, things like that. That was just for the professionals to come in. But these volunteers were doing everything else to make that building come back to life. And if you walked in it today, you would just be astounded at the difference. It doesn't look like it did before we left. It looks much better. It has never looked better. And it's just a testament of what volunteers can do for an organization that are dedicated. And so we're really proud of them. I also want to tip my hat to Marge Berggraf, who's in the audience here. She was a volunteer for the museum over 40 years now, I believe. Maybe 45 now? 40, okay. And still is volunteering today with 2 others who are putting our library back together book by book, which was all boxed up. And I could just go on and on about how important these volunteers are to the Marine Museum, and I'm sure to all the other museums in town and everywhere, that you just can't survive without the dedication of these people. really supporting. You can't afford the labor that they put into it. It would just drive you broke. And then it's just the commitment and it's the community involvement that's so important because, as you all know, it's a collaboration between a community and a museum, and the museum gives back, hopefully with programs and so forth. But these volunteers are really what makes these places go. So I really want to congratulate all the volunteers on behalf of the museum. We now have 160 roughly on our roster. In 2023, we had over 2,400 hours that they put in. And I tip my hat to you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak on your behalf.
From the audience here, thank you very, very much, Doug, for that. Thank you, volunteers, for coming tonight. Congratulations on what you've done. I know there's a task ahead, and maybe in a couple of years we'll hear from you again. So, Paul, back to you.
Thank you very much for standing in for me, Peter. And again, congratulations to the volunteers of the Great Lakes Museum. So now we will commence with our AGM. Paul, will you display the agenda on the screen, please? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call the AGM to order. First call for a period of remembrance for those in our society that who have left us, but still look over our activities from above. Mr. Secretary, do we have quorum before I call for motions?
We appear to have a quorum both here and in Zoom land, yes.
Wonderful, thank you. So, item number 3 is approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda of the AGM?
If you could correct an error on item 5, it should read annual general meeting of 2023. Some people may have an old agenda.
Okay, thank you. So noted. Okay, and I can't really see everybody with the agenda up, so I'll call for a mover and a seconder, and you can go and pick one, Don. I'm now looking for approval of the minutes of the annual general meeting of 2023. Do I have a mover and a seconder?
Duncan and Gillette. And
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, again, the agenda has jumped ahead a page.
All right.
Thank you. Now looking for business arising from the minutes of the annual general meeting 2023, agenda item 7F below. Do we discuss that at this point, Mr. Secretary?
It's at the discretion of the speaker for that.
Okay, again, what is 7? 7.
That's high school history awards report. Do you want to do it now or later on?
Well, usually business arising is discussed before any new business. So Paul, go ahead, please.
hello.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, I'll speak up and you can hear me out there. I got to get around. I tell somebody else to get in front of the mic, the camera, and then I forget. Okay, well, last June, we started what I'm going to take the liberty of saying is a heritage project. We have decided as a council to award every school, high school in the Kingston area with a $150 award to the student who achieves in history. Appropriate for a historical society, we thought. And so I wanted to read to you the award itself and the criteria for the award. This award is presented to a graduating student in each of the 9 City of Kingston secondary schools who has shown an aptitude and passion for history in any of its many forms. As performance in grade 12 level Canadian and/or world history courses will be a factor, the students' teachers will have input into the selection of the successful recipient. The criteria may also include the candidate's intention of pursuing further education in the humanities and/or social sciences. By history, we include many forms such as archaeology, anthropology, cultural heritage, social history, museums, etc. So each of the schools presented last June to us the names of the awardee, and one of the council mostly, but we also had one member make the presentation at their award ceremony. And that was very well received. The students were very grateful. We got even a couple of letters. And so as I went out with the request for each of the schools to embark on the process again, I was really surprised. I got answers from just about every one of them saying, we're on board, we really like it, and it is motivating students. So the society can look to this as a heritage project for the foreseeable future. $150 award to 9 students in the 9 high schools in the Kingston area.
Oh, I could have skipped my president's remarks. Come on now. Folks, this has been an interesting 2-year journey for me to be president of this incredible society. As I finish out my second term, I've reflected on the many accomplishments that we have had. One of them being what Paul Van Ness has just spoken about, establishing this new Heritage Award. The collaboration over the last 2 years with the Heritage Foundation, with our February events, which just happened, this year's just happened on Sunday, and our continued commitment to having our monthly regular meetings and our guest speaker series. Duncan McDowell continues to bring us an incredible lineup of historical relevant information presented by speakers of knowledge and expertise. Where I'm also very proud of the commitment that we continued to the Sir John A. Macdonald June 6th ceremony. These are differing times. And as we all have our own opinions about what society is doing now around colonialism, this society has stayed true to its form to continue to honor a man who created our country, and despite his foibles and his commitment to what he thought was right at the time, we are there. We will continue our commitment to that, and I thank Alan McLaughlin for leading that in such a courageous way. In conclusion of my comments, I want to acknowledge, and I did in our newsletter, but volunteering to me is about giving a gift of time, a gift of commitment. And I want to acknowledge that for 20 years, Warren Everett has shared his gift with us, and this year will retire at the end of this AGM tonight. Thank you, Warren, for your counsel, your advice, and your leadership. Also retiring at the end of this meeting tonight is Tabitha Renault, who has been the director of the Murney Tower, our little gem down at the bottom of Berry Street. She has done an incredible job renewing the tower before COVID and keeping it relevant through COVID. Has been reported in the tower's annual report and also in council meetings. We had a very successful year, probably more successful than many larger historic sites in Kingston. And I believe it truly is, from the leadership of Tabitha, the absolutely enthusiastic curator, Simgay, and all of the student interpreters that we have had over the last few years who have kept it interesting and engaging. Barring some disastrous occurrence, it looks like I will continue as your president. And I hope that my next term will be as exciting as this, as I continue to learn. I am a young stone in Kingston, and I am always interested in the history of the town that I have come to love. Thank you very much, everybody. And now we'll move on, Paul, to the second page, please. So reports from officers, councils, and committees. All the reports are listed in your materials. So I will simply ask if there are any questions of any reports. First of all, being the president's report. Any questions? Hearing none, the secretary's report. Third, the awards committee report. The editor's report from Historic Kingston, which many of you will have just received.
Beautiful job.
Not hearing any. What's the next, Paul? The editor's report from Limelight. I must say that Betty is diligent in making sure I get my letter in every month. Thank you for the prodding, Betty. It is your gift. Paul just gave a verbal report as well as the report that you have for the KHS High School History Awards report. Any questions? To the membership report. Any questions of Paul Van Est, who does a fabulous job of keeping track of our numbers?
Just one interjection. You'll notice that the families dropped from 2022 to 23. You'll notice they dropped from 90 to 66. That was a real hit on our membership, because typically we count families as 2 people. And so suddenly people were saving the $10, I guess. So they dropped from being a family membership to being a single. So our numbers took a hit from that. But at this point, we only have about 20 people who have not renewed at this point from last year to this year. And if you're one of them here, come see me. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. The Murney Tower National Historic Site Committee report. Any questions? Program report. Publicity report. Are there any questions? The Sir John A. Macdonald June 6th gravesite ceremony. Are there any questions or comments? And finally, the website committee report. Not hearing any questions or further comments, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder to accept the reports from officers, council, and committees.
Seconder. And
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, folks. And at this time, I'm going to ask Peter Gower to step forward and discuss new bylaw.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Paul. I know how excited everybody is once bylaw and constitution gets on the agenda. So we do have to go through a process again, but not tonight. Some 15 years ago, the Ontario government, and it was then the Liberal government, realized that there were problems with some of the not-for-profit organizations who were interpreting their bylaws basically in their own interests. And so they decided to revise the rules. And that revision has been a long and slow process. And I know many of you have been involved in your own other organizations. The first iteration about 10 years ago, for example, gave a vote to all active members. And the city of Hamilton pointed out that their minor sports organization therefore had a majority of voters amongst the 4 and 5-year-olds who played soccer. And that legislation really didn't work as was planned. Now, finally, the Nonprofit Law Ontario has been passed, and it'll come into effect in October of this year. Your council has rewritten our present constitution and bylaws to get them to conform with those new regulations. But before presenting them, we have asked the Queen's Law School students to suggest any sections which do not conform with the new law. We have not yet received their comments, and that is a free job that they happily do, and many of your organizations will have used their expertise. Therefore, your council had a choice. We could present the new bylaws, which now incorporate the Constitution in them, because constitutions aren't allowed anymore, present them tonight for ratification, and if they need refining, we would have to call another special general meeting later to ratify the new version, or we could wait until we had an approved version and then call a general meeting for their ratification at that time. And we chose the second way, which is why we will not be dealing with them tonight. And in the back of my mind is still it would not be a surprise for that October date to suddenly change yet again. If anybody wants to see the proposals, and they honestly are a tidying up of our present bylaws with no major changes, then please email me at our kingstonhs@gmail.com address, and we'll happily send you a copy to see where we are with those. If there are questions, I'll try and answer them, but otherwise, Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. Is there any questions in the room? Is there any questions online? Great. We will bring further information when Queen's Law students have finished their review. Moving on to agenda item number 9, the financial statements presented by our treasurer, Peter Ginn. Go ahead, please, Peter.
So I'm going to present the financial statements prepared by Grant Thornton, which used to be Secretary Ross and Perry. They merged Grant Thornton. There are a few copies up here. These are drafts at this point until we did our discussions this evening. But I would like to talk to, I guess, just the statement of operations. So I'll put them up on the screen here. So you can see the revenue side of the statement. And I would point out a couple of things perhaps in those. The donations number is up very significantly over what we had budgeted and what we'd anticipated because of a significant donation from the Pittsburgh Historical Society, which just went out of business last year. So $3,100 came from them into our budget as a donation. And also, even in addition to that, our members were really generous with their donations this year. So those made a significant impact on the revenue side and the general part of our budget. You'll see. On the tower, the one I would make relates to donations. We call donations, but the admission to the tower we changed a couple of years ago from a set fee to admission by donation. And we've been very successful in that shift. In fact, the amount of money it brings in is in excess of what we used to get charging set admissions. So financially, they've done very well. Moving to the expenditure side, you'll see the sponsorships, student awards and sponsorships, and that was the program that Paul was talking about in terms of an expenditure there. The rest of it is pretty much routine. And on the tower side, you can see the expenditures there. The important thing to note is that we ran a surplus in our general revenue side, our general side of about $8,000, and in the tower about $4,100. So we're in good shape financially in our operations. And in summary, there is more detail in the financial statements, and we hope to, once these are finalized, post them on the website in the next few days. But I would comment that Grant Thornton says that based on the review, nothing has come to our attention that causes us to believe that the financial statements do not present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Kingston Historical Society at December 31st, 2023, and the results of the operations and the cash flows for the year ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. So if there are any questions with respect to our financial statements, I would like to try to address them. Okay, and then in which case I would like to move the approval of these financial statements by our AGM.
So moved by the treasurer. Do I have a seconder?
Duncan?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussions on the financial position of the society? Hearing none, all those in favor? Carried. Go ahead, Peter, with your next presentation, your next resolution.
Okay, I guess it looks like I'm talking about the budget. So this is an information item for the membership and where we anticipate going financially in 2024. You can see where our actual expenditures to the year end of 2023 is the financial statements, and our budget plan for 2024. The couple of numbers I would point out. One is the membership revenue. We're anticipating a decline of about $1,000, and that relates to the fact that last year we decided to reduce our membership fees for 2024 and ongoing. The other number I would like to put on the point out the revenue side is the investment income. Interest rates are up, and we have a significant GIC investments in the general account, so they will bring us, we anticipate, about $3,100 in revenue. On the expenditure side, there is money set aside for the Sir John A. Student Sixth event, and again for the student awards, and we're predicting a small deficit in the budget. This is the general budget. With respect to the tower, we anticipate the donations with the admissions pretty much the same as last year at the door, and we've already received the City of Kingston's Heritage Grant of just over $63,000, which forms a major part of our budget. And on the expenditure side, you can see the numbers there. There's the curator manager's position and the student positions. And we anticipate a very small surplus in this budget at year end. So we think we're in good shape financially. And that sort of outlines where we think the priorities are for 2024. What's the next?
Motion. It's item number 10, ratification.
Okay, so moving along to the next item, I have to make a motion to ratify the business conducted by the council during the operating year 2023. So if you've got any concerns about what we did as council, now's the time to raise them.
Can we have a seconder first, please?
Yeah, is there a seconder? It's Warren.
Boys. Boys. BOYCE.
Okay,
Alan Boyce.
Sure.
Yep.
so I don't see any questions here, Paul.
I don't either.
Okay, then I'll call that motion. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have to make a motion to appoint an accountant for the next year. So the motion is to retain Grant Thornton, formerly Secker Ross and Perry, to prepare our society's 2024 financial statements.
I'll second that.
Moved by Peter and seconded by Vincent.
Great.
Are there any questions? That's the wrong motion that's on the screen right now. That was already voted on. Thank you very much. So motion to retain Grant Thornton.
Yes, sorry.
Any questions now that the motion is on the floor? Not seeing any. Is there any in the room?
No.
Not seeing any. All those in favor? Carried.
Okay, one last motion to make. That's to appoint Doug Petty as a non-council member to review the financial records of the society for 2024 and to report to the members at the 2025 AGM.
Motion by Peter Ginn. Any seconder to that motion? Vincent?
Can't see you.
Vincent or somebody in the room?
I got it.
Yeah.
Paul Van
It's got to get on the record somewhere.
Yeah. So motion is on the floor. Is there any discussion on this motion? Not seeing any on Zoom. Any in the room?
No.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 14, nominations and election of officers and council. Vincent, you're on, buddy.
Okay, now, can we have this slide up, please?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, number 14, I think. Thanks, Paul. Okay, so what we have here is the slate that we are proposing for 2024. Everyone on here has given their approval, which is of course necessary. And Paul Charbonneau is going to continue on as the president. I will then continue on, I guess, as past president. That works out. Peter Gower, vice president, Peter Ginn, treasurer, Don Richardson, secretary, Betty Andrews, who will also handle Limelight as a counselor, Alan McLaughlin, the June 6th event, Duncan McDowell will continue on with program, Leanna Shaw. Now Leanna has come on and, as you know, with Murney Tower, Tabitha, after doing a great job, has moved on to Ottawa area. And so Leanna Shaw, if she came on, she would, she's agreed that she would take Tabitha's place with Tabitha's blessing. Paul and Ness membership. So at large, we have one position that is open, and that's where everybody comes into play here. I will now call 3 times from the floor and from Zoom land. If we have anyone who is to be nominated, and in order to nominate someone, you must have already spoken with that person and gotten their permission, which is obvious, isn't it? Okay, I'm calling once, do I have any nominations from the floor to fill in this counselor position?
I would like to nominate Craig Pettis. Who has
Okay, thank you. So we can show that Paul Van Ness has nominated Craig Pettis, sorry. Craig, do you approve or do you agree with this?
I agree.
Thank you very much. Any other nominations from the floor? Okay, any other nominations from the floor? Okay, so I think that's 3 times. So I declare that.
Since you, sorry, point of order, Vincent. Do you require a seconder for a nomination?
Yes, I will require that. Oh, right, I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Thank you very much. See, that's why
You
he's
have
president.
Alan McLaughlin seconding the nomination for Mr. Petrus.
Oh, okay, thank you. So now we can have any discussions. I remember that. On this, any discussions? Discussion on this? Okay. So now I've got a mover, seconder. So do I call the vote or do you?
There is
I'll
no
move
vote.
the
It's an acclamation.
nominations be closed.
There is no need to vote. It's an acclamation.
Thank you very much.
Should close it first.
So I close what?
I've moved that nominations be closed.
I move, you move.
I
That
did.
nominations be closed, seconder?
Somebody second that motion. We've got seconders here.
Thank you, Alan.
So now it's
All those in favor?
not to be declared.
Again, there's no need for a vote, Vincent.
Okay, thank you very much.
Acclamation in Robert's Rules of
Great,
Order.
Pettis.
Who seconded the motion?
Congratulations, Mr. Pettis, for
Oh, Alan.
joining us. Sorry, am I speaking over somebody?
No, I'm talking here, so.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So congratulations, Craig. Welcome to the council. And I look forward to your gifts being given to us. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, please, Paul. If I can see it. Thank you. All right, I'll call for any new business for the good of the society. I can't see everybody, so let me know if anybody has any new business.
Nothing in the room at this point.
Nothing on Zoom as far as I can tell. Okay, thank you. So that comes to my closing remarks. Well, it has been my honor to chair my first AGM. I was not able to do that last year. Thank you for making it a very easy AGM to Paul Van Ness and Peter and Don and Peter Gower. It's great to be able to flow through them very easily. I look forward to our next year. We've got some exciting things to look forward to, not only within this society, but in the historical significance of Kingston and what we have to share with the world. And with that, I will call for a motion to adjourn. I don't see, thank you, Vincent. May I have a seconder, please? Is there anybody in the room with their hand up? I can't see that.
Yes, and Richard.
Okay, wonderful. Thank
Everybody,
you.
actually, Paul.
It's
Great,
unanimous.
thank you. Thank you very much, folks. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will keep in touch.